Good afternoon and welcome once again to Kaftan TV and our live broadcast and special program on the 2023 elections. We stopped somewhere yesterday, but now we're back again with more updates and more analysis on the elections. You do know that some polling units had elections postponed, so there are still elections going on, and they're still counting. This collation is expected to start. INEC has just said that it will begin around 1 p.m. Today, which is just a matter of minutes away. So we'll bring more to you now, analysis and discussion on the election as the program goes along. Welcome once again. I am Amadine Ubewe.
And I am Messi Babajide. Of course, like Amadine has said, INEC has extended voting for some polling unit for presidential and national assembly polls. And then, of course, we'll talk about the postponement of elections for some places till March 11th. And you have to note also, it's pertinent to know that 25% of your vote is required for a presidential aspirant to win elections, is required to win 25% in 24 states plus FCT. Welcome once again to the live telecast for 2023 elections.
All right, we're actually joined now by a guest. He is the honorary chairman of the Democrat Union of Africa. His name is Mr. Peter Manu. Some persons call him Chairman Emeritus. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the program, Mr. Manu.
All right, let's start with the basic. How's your time been here in Nigeria?
Well, so far so good. We've been able to look at some of the pre-voting systems and governance of the elections. Then we have been able to look at voting itself on yesterday's D-Day voting. And we were able also, through our interaction with INEC, being able to look at some of the long-term planning and long-term aspects of the elections, like voter registration, collection of PVCs, nomination of candidates, internal primaries of political parties, and all the conundrums surrounding nominations. Because you need nominations before you arrive at the elections. So we took a look at that. We took a look at participation of female in the elections and the election administration, the people with disability and the youth, how far they have been incorporated to make the election as inclusive as possible. Further, we are aware of displaced people in Nigeria, particularly in Northeast, and what plans or what facilities did INEC put in place to get them on board as far as their franchise are concerned as citizens of Nigeria, to get them secured security-wise for them to take part in the elections. So these are some of the things we have done and we are continuing to do until the elections are ultimately declared.
All right, so now let's go straight into your assessment of the things you've seen so far. How would you grade the level of preparedness and smoothness of the election so far? Is it, you had a press conference before the elections where you made positive predictions. Are they meeting up to the standards that you expected?
Very well so. Very well so, because anyone who is familiar with Nigerian elections will tell you that there have been some tremendous improvements in the way the election administration has gone over the years. Some time back, you go to the polling booth or the voting station and be accredited, and you go home before, or you be in the queue or find a place to sit before the voting will start, and that's not the best way to go. But all these changes have come to the extent that now, with the introduction of technology, BVAS, you are immediately identified uniquely with your biometric fingers, and then you flow on to get your ballot paper and cast your vote. So yesterday, one thing I watched in the queue is how long does it take for a person to vote. And some of them 2 minutes, Once the ballot paper from the identification through the beavers, the name in the register, tearing of ballot paper, going to mark your ballot paper, and then putting it in the box. 2 minutes. So it's faster. And this does not agitate voters, and it does not bring any conflict right at the polling stations, because many of the violence that occur at the polling stations are also because people stand in queue for far too long, and the administration of the ballot paper takes too long, and people get agitated, and any little thing, then they're angry, and it can create confusion. And I didn't see that yesterday, so I commend INEC for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So when you started off, you started with participation of the youths and disability. How well would you rate this compared to the previous elections we've had in Nigeria?
See, let me state that when I got the statistics that show that 93% of people who registered have gotten their PVCs, I was very satisfied. And it also gave me a prediction that voter turnout will be high. And lo and behold, from what is coming out, it's going to be a high figure. So I saw the women, I saw the men, I saw the youth in the queue, and pregnant women and women with babies were given the opportunity to go first. I mean, in a civil manner, very civilized way of doing things. And I think that that's a good sign that Nigerians have embraced and have deepened multi-party democracy as a way of governing themselves.
All right. So let's speak now about the time of voting. Like you've accurately described, it actually takes quite a short time to actually cast your vote. But the issue that we were seeing is that the INEC officials themselves seem to be coming late, or the materials were coming late. And you know, in the past, when elections are about to start, there's usually, I think a couple of times we've seen in Nigeria, there's usually a 1 week postponement or thereabout. But this time, the February 25th was February 25th. I wonder, do you think perhaps this could have caused, because there's a lot of reports of lateness, not late voting per se, just that it did not arrive on time. Polling units I observed myself, voting did not begin till 11 o'clock. We have, worldwide known figures like Okonjo-Iweala, who complained that she didn't get to vote at about 11:52. She was still waiting for, these officials. Do you think perhaps they needed more time to prepare?
Well, the election cycle started 4 years ago. So if you say they needed more time, I would disagree, because immediately after the last election, you must start preparing for the next election based on the evaluation or the review that you undertake of the previous election. That will tell you the things that you got it right, those that you did not get it right, and what amendments or reforms that you have to do. The last time in 2019, about 12 midnight or so, then an announcement came that the election has been postponed.
Yes.
It was postponed because of logistics problems, materials. So I think that this year there should have been enough planning as far as logistics and supply chain component of the election is concerned, because Nigeria has a huge numbers. Nevertheless, it starts from the federal level, distributed to states. You have the state resident electoral commissioners. They have their local government areas. They have their rack, and from rack to the polling unit. So all these systems or chain are in place, and you must time yourself such that you know your delivery time. And it is not, one thing we must also not forget is that it is not INEC alone that should conduct an election. It is INEC, fine, but they need other stakeholders, the security people, the political parties, civil society, of course, your good self, the media. So all of you play complementary roles to make a successful elections. So if the election is going on, I mean, if I say it's going on, I'm talking about the planning, and there are some setbacks, because I expect INEC to be contacting all the major stakeholders, have a conversation with them in the planning time to be able to identify any setbacks as far as procurement is concerned. But you know, I mentioned political parties. They have to go through their internal primaries to bring up the candidate's name upon which INEC will go and print a ballot paper. So, and I have read about too many interruptions in Nigeria's internal primaries and courts getting involved. So it delays the INEC the ability to print the papers on time, to be able to deliver on time. I mean, we have to look at the scenario in a holistic manner. And I think that though there were delays, yesterday I physically saw polling stations that opened around 11:10 a.m. But before then, I went to the registration area centers, the racks, where the materials are distributed from to the polling units. And the youth, the service corps people, both male and female, were there collecting their stuff to their polling units. Fantastic. Some of them went to sleep over at those stations to be able to collect the materials on time. They had arranged their vehicles, and mind you, the vehicles too will need to be fueled. So whether they had problems with fuel, I can't tell. Whether they had problem with cash, because they want to be paid in cash. So there is a multiplicity of things that we cannot lay squarely on the shoulders of INEC, because the cash and the fuel matter of transporting the materials goes beyond the realms of INEC.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry to cut you short. You said still on this preparedness. Now we've spoken about lateness, and you said you, of course, witnessed some INEC officials coming late yesterday, and we had in some cases some staffs were not properly trained. I mean, we had reports from Kuje area as of yesterday. The INEC ad hoc staffs came on board and they said they couldn't remember the password for the Beaver system. So who takes the blame for this?
I believe strongly that the individual must be a lazy person, and then INEC must find a way of determining that people they have trained meet the specifications of what they give them. Otherwise, we will always find ourselves in trouble. And I'm happy that when INEC decides to recruit, particularly temporary staff, they advertise online. And they also give the public an opportunity to object to various individuals who have applied and who they think have one or two reasons against. So the public is also involved in the recruitment exercise. Okay, because they give the public the opportunity, they string down the names for the public to have an opportunity to object. That's part of the democracy. That's part of the transparency. That's part of the openness of the elections. And I think it's a good thing. So if the public did not object, and ultimately they have recruited them and trained them and deployed them, and there's a hitch, well, the supervisors are there to know, because within each polling unit which comes under a rack, there should be a supervisor who immediately must change that kind of person. So you can't blame only the temporary staff. INEC supervisory role must be put into question, and in that instance I'll blame INEC for that.
All right. You've been very clear that there are multiple stakeholders in this process, and it's not just INEC. And so let me put myself and my colleagues on the spot. What has been your assessment of the way the media has, told the story and behaved themselves during this election?
Well, Nigeria media, from my point of view, is a strong one. It's a bold one. They are candid. And I must pat them on their shoulders. Nevertheless, the media men are not superhuman. They are human beings like all of us, so they are bound to make mistakes. And these days too, when we say media, we must look at the social media, where somebody can sit in his bedroom and churn out propaganda and fake news, disinformation and misinformation given to the public. So we must be cautious, particularly about the social media, what they churn out. And we should not swallow it line, hook, and sinker. We must always fact check to be able to digest the truth from falsehood. And I think if we are able to do that, we'll move on. But so far, I think that the Nigerian media, as far as this election is concerned, has done well. But there's still room for improvement, particularly educating the voters. And they must take the political parties to task. I mean, the political parties have not been doing enough as far as the elections are concerned. I went to the polling stations, saw some polling agents. They were just empty. They didn't have a pen. They didn't have a paper. So what were they observing? If they saw anything, how are they going to record it? So the media itself needs to know more about the elections to be able to bring some of the issues out to the stakeholder, in this case, political parties or candidates. I mean, I saw on television yesterday a young lady in Lagos claiming that the polling unit had not uploaded the results on the IREV. I was making a lot of noise. I don't know if you saw it. It wasn't necessary. Because under the rules of engagement, every polling agent has to sign the result sheet and get his copy.
Yes.
So if you have your copy, what next? But they don't even know. The agents were just...
Well, sorry to cut you short. Could that be said that to be the fault of INEC, given that, given an antecedent that Nigerians do actually not trust INEC, and this time everybody's trying to monitor, if you'd agree with me, everybody's trying to follow up back to back. So in this process...
No, it's the people who do not know that perhaps agents are even supposed to collect copies.
So does that mean INEC has actually failed to sensitize the people enough?
It's still an issue of trust.
Trust,
even
yes.
though
But
an agent has that something else could end up on the...
I think 60% trust is not cheap. Because I read from either CDD or some of the research they did, in which Nigerians, 60% have trust in INEC. And that's not cheap.
The 40% is still a lot, if you'd agree with me. The 40% is still a lot.
Oh, it's a lot, but 60% is a pass mark.
60%
That's
is
true.
well,
But what I am saying is that if the political parties had educated their people very well, because they even, let me move a step further. The political parties are supposed to do, in modern days, what we call para vote tabulation, PVT. That is where the political party gathers their own results ahead of INEC. You must be timely, it must be quick, and it must be accurate. So INEC is doing their collation. You too are doing your own, but yours must be faster so that you be ahead of INEC. So by the time you get to the National Collation Center, you have all your sheets, result sheets in front of you. So now let INEC come. That's the way to go.
All right, then we'll go on a quick break now. When we return, I'd like us to delve into some issues that might have affected the election, including the Naira swap and, incidents of some electoral violence. But that will be after a quick break. When we return, we'll go straight into that discussion. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Before we go deeper into the conversation, let's take some quick updates. From Niger State, we have a correspondent there sharing that collation is yet to begin. This was some minutes ago, but you can see there that is the visuals of the collation center still empty as at the time of the report was sent in. That's for Niger State.
Well,
now, all right.
For Ogun State, well, the collation center begins collation at 12:24 p.m. This 12:40, and this clearly indicates that final results announcement will take more time than expected. That's from Jumoke, one of our correspondents in Ogun State.
All right, now to Plateau State. They are still waiting for arrival of INEC officials to compel or to commence compiling of results. That was some minutes before. We'll get more current updates as the time moves on. All right, now let's go back into the discussion. We heard we knew about the Naira swap issue and how it was meant to curb vote buying. And interestingly, we've had very little or almost no reports about vote buying. But the analysis was made sometime by one of the experts that when you take away vote buying, all that is left for nefarious persons is violence. So they know that they can't, induce people anymore, so they use violence. Take, for instance, in Lagos, there's been pockets of reports of violence in different places. I'd like to get your thoughts, because we want to be more solution oriented. Now, in some of these videos, you notice that, take, for instance, one particular one, I guess we'll see a video of that shortly. There were actually policemen present, and when the electorate complained, the policemen said, we'll be filing our reports this evening, so the question now, and in another one, there was a thug, so to speak, threatening voters, and there was a policeman nearby. So the question now is, what is the solution to this? How can the forces or the stakeholders protect voters, especially in places where violence seems more prone?
Thank you very much. Let me start with the vote buying. From what you are saying, vote buying has gone down tremendously during this election. I would like to take it from the point of view that the voters have also become more discerning. It's not only a question of the cash shop that has alerted the voters, but the voters have also become discerning to the extent that they have seen also that, hey, I can take your money and vote according to my conscience. Because after all, when I enter the cubicle, the voting cubicle, it's supposed to be secret voting.
Yes.
So apart from voters going into the cubicle with their smartphones, some of them to capture where they have marked or thumbprinted to go and show to their paymaster for their cash. Otherwise, there is a study conducted by CDD which said that voters would take your money, but would not necessarily compel them to vote for you. And let me give you an example in this country, Nigeria. In 2015, when for the first time an opposition party won elections against an incumbent government, I'm talking about President Buhari taking over from President Jonathan.
Yes.
I do not think that President Buhari had more resources than Jonathan and PDP. But the Nigerian voters at that time decided that they would vote for and make a change by whatever monies they have collected, will still vote for President Buhari. And I remember I interacted with one civil society organization about a rally, a PDP rally, and there were a lot of women. So I asked her, so are all these women going to vote for PDP? She says, who? You wait till the D-Day comes. They want money for rice for their feeding. So it does not always translate that when you give cash to somebody, automatically he's going to vote for you. Then what is the essence of the Secret Voting Act? Something which was promulgated in 1873 in the UK. Secret Voting Act. Check it, Google it. So you don't play with that. We don't play with that.
Sorry, just to cut you short,
But
within the ruckus of the voting, do people pay attention to that? I found that once you start voting, people kind of ignore you. If perhaps if a voter is, stylishly, pointing his ballot paper at some person who's going to pay them, I think there's usually so much ruckus that people don't pay
then
attention.
he has made up his mind already that he will vote for that person. Wait a minute.
No, I mean the process of stopping it.
I'm coming. You see, research indicated to everybody that Nigerians have three major issues to grapple with. These are insecurity, jobs, and economy. So at whatever level you are, you also will want to see who could solve these three key major problems. And these three key major problems are articulated by the various campaigns and candidates in the form of manifesto and policy. So whose manifesto and policy attracts you? So if that falls in line with giving me money, I have decided based on the policy and the manifesto already.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't always translate that people give you money. No, I want us to not to take the voter for granted, because in making these assumptions, we always think that the voter is a fool, but he's not. He's not at all. He also has his in thing of what he wants from the vote he's going to cast. He knows what he wants. Some of them, they think about their grandchildren, they think about their children. Some of them, they think about themselves. So he does not always translate that if you give money, people will vote for you.
All right, that's fair enough.
And coming from that to the vigilance, the next question. You see, the INEC conducts elections, but INEC is not a security agency. That's why they work and cooperate extensively with all the security agencies to maintain law and order before, during, and after the elections. So there is a security component of elections in all countries, in which the Inspector General of Police and other military and paramilitary organizations are involved. They are educated on the election rules, code of conduct, etc. And before the election commences, they must have, through intelligence, come out with what we call flashpoints. Places, and they know that these are flashpoints, so you must know how to package the security personnel and thoughts. But you cannot do all these things without the input of the citizenry. It is the Nigerian citizens who know these people and can give tips to the security agencies to enable them act. So the citizenry also have a role to play. And if the citizenry look at something and they did not hint the intelligence agencies, they cannot work on it.
Right, Mr.
Working.
Okay, I was about to take a call from one of our viewers, but we lost that call. Please keep them coming. So go ahead, please.
So before you move on, INEC is set to announce the presidential and NAS election results from 20 local government areas in the state. While Professor Kayode Adeboale, that's the VC University of Ibadan, is the chairman of the Collation Center. However, the body only has 10 results from 10 local government areas as of now. That's coming from our reporter Jumoke Adebare in Ogun State. That came in as 12:41 this afternoon. That's a few minutes ago. So, sir, you can
Let's quickly hear from. Okay, we lost that call again. Please go ahead.
So the violence is very unfortunate, but I think that the security agencies have been well prepared and they should have been able to deal with it.
Okay, sir.
Especially those that they were able to identify as flashpoints, which they already had foreknowledge of what could happen in those areas. So I'm surprised.
Yes, just a moment, Mr. Manu. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is
Hello.
yes, you're on to Kaftan TV. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm listening to your program.
All right.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Please, can you step away from your TV set?
Please step away from your TV so we can hear you. Turn down your TV set so we can hear you. Hello, can you?
I'm calling from Bukit.
Okay.
You have to turn down your TV set so we can hear you.
Either you turn it down or you move away.
Please, you call us back. We can't hear you now. Just when you call back, please turn down the volume of your TV set.
Please note that when you are calling our viewers, you either move away from your TV set or you turn down the volume. Thank you very much.
All right. Like we were saying about violence, you said there's a role of the voter.
So the INEC is the overall boss of the elections. They administer the elections. But the security component of the elections, they cannot be faulted. That is why they bring in the security agencies, the IGP and other security agencies like the military, to take them through the ethics, the code of conduct, the electoral processes, the laws, the do's and don'ts. And it is then up to the security agents to act professionally, to be able to arrest people whose business is to cause mayhem at polling stations.
All right. Let's hear from this caller. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
All right, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Family James from Bukit.
All right, Mr. James, go ahead. What's your experience so far?
Yeah. Family James from Bukit.
Okay, make your contribution in 60 seconds.
The contribution I want to make is that even the security agents we are talking about,
We can hear you.
at the polling unit, they are ready to take bribes. They are ready to share money. People that are directed to even monitor elections, they are ready to share money. Yeah. So look at the problem. Yeah. People that polling unit.
Hello, please, you need to turn down the volume of your TV set. There's echo here. You seem to be listening to yourself. Hello. All right, please, let's continue the conversation on electoral violence. But I think one of the worries people have is the fact that even where there's policemen, the perpetrators are not shaking or scared to do what they initially meant to do. What do you think could be the cause of that?
I have seen on Nigerian television people being arrested for sharing money at a polling unit, at a coalition center during, I think, or some by-election, something, or gubernatorial elections. So it's not anybody who can do it and go scot-free. The EFCC, I think the arrest was made by the EFCC, should go into action. And I believe they were around, snooping around during the election. It's unfortunate many people may have gone through the net. But at least, as you rightly said from the beginning, it has lowered the money game.
All right. Okay. I'm just Mr. Manu, to cut you short. But right now, at the International Conference Center, the INEC chairman is ready to brief. So we'll move on to that location right now. Just a moment, you get that shortly. Professor Manu Jakubu. After that briefing, we'll return and the conversation continues. Stay with us.